of the day. This is Miss Tabassum. As you know that we are already reading The Landlady by Roald Dahl. Let's see what has been done so far. Billy Weaver ditched Bart at about 9 o'clock in the evening. On asking, the porter suggested him to go to the Bell and Dragon. While he was walking through the street, Billy caught sight of a printed notice. In it were written bed and breakfast. When Billy peeped through the window, he saw that the room was well decorated and well furnished. So Billy thought that it would be a very comfortable place for him to stay. But before finally moving to bed and breakfast, he thought that he would have a look at the Bell and Dragon. As he was going to move and turn from bed and breakfast, he felt as if the words bed and breakfast were compelling him and forcing him to stay over there. And without his own will, he started moving to the front door. He went to the door and rang the bell. Instantly, a lady about 45 to 50 years old with a round pink face and calm blue eyes welcomed him smilingly by opening the door. After he went inside, Billy took off his hat, and when he was about to hang the hat, he saw that there were no other hats or coats or walking sticks over there. It means that she was the only visitor over there. The landlady said that she knew Billy would come, and she was extremely overwhelmed at the arrival of Billy. So they climbed to the third floor of the building, and the landlady showed Billy his room. Now let's move to the further story.
Here it goes, The Landlady by Roald Dahl.
I am so glad you appeared, she said, looking earnestly into his face. I was beginning to get worried. Looking with seriousness, the landlady said that she was extremely happy that Billy visited her. She also added that she was getting worried as no visitors were coming. What about supper, my dear? I am not a bit hungry, thank you, he said. I think I will just go to bed. The landlady asked Billy if he would like to have meal before going to bed. Billy answered that he was not at all hungry and would just go to sleep. Very well then, I will leave you now, but before you go to bed, would you be kind enough to pop into the sitting room and sign the book? The landlady said Billy that she would take his leave then. She also asked Billy if he would go downstairs and sign the visitor's book before going to bed. The fact that his landlady appeared to be slightly off her rocker didn't worry Billy. The landlady seemed to be a bit crazy and strange, but this strangeness and queerness didn't worry Billy. After unpacking his suitcase, he trotted downstairs to the living room. He found the guest book lying open on the piano and the little dachshund still sleeping soundly. He took out his pen and wrote down his name and address. There were only 2 other entries above his on the page, and as one always does with guest books, he started to read them. One was a Christopher Mulholland and the other was Gregory W. Temple. So, after unpacking his suitcase, Billy went downstairs to the living room. There he found the guest book on the piano, and the little dog was still sleeping soundly. He took out his pen and then wrote his own name and address in the guest book. There were only 2 other entries above his on that particular page. He saw that one was the name of some Christopher Mulholland and the other was Gregory W. Temple. Christopher Mulholland, that rings a bell. Where had he heard that rather unusual name before? He glanced down again at the book. Christopher Mulholland, 231 Cathedral Road, Cardiff. Gregory W. Temple, 27 Sycamore Drive, Bristol. After reading the name of Christopher Mulholland, Billy felt that the name was very familiar to him. So, he looked at that particular page of the guest book again to read out the name and address. He saw that there were only 2 entries. One was of Christopher Mulholland, whose address was 231 Cathedral Road, Cardiff, and the other one was of Gregory W. Temple, whose address was 27 Sycamore Drive, Bristol. Gregory Temple, he said aloud, searching his memory. Christopher Mulholland. So, Billy tried to recall the names of these 2 persons in his mind by saying their names aloud. Such charming boys, a voice behind him answered. He turned and saw the landlady sailing into the room with a large silver tray in her hands. As Billy was continuously trying to think about the names Gregory Temple and Christopher Mulholland, he started saying them aloud so that he could recall them in his mind. While he was doing this, he heard a voice behind him, which said that the boys were very charming. He turned back and saw that the landlady was confidently moving into the room with a large silver tray in her hands. They sound somehow familiar, he said. I am almost positive I have heard those names before somewhere. Maybe it was in the newspapers. When the landlady said that those 2 boys were very charming, Billy said that he was almost confirmed that he had heard about those names somewhere earlier, as those 2 names sounds very familiar to him. It might be that he had read about them in some newspapers. They weren't famous in any way, were they? I mean famous cricketers or footballers. Billy asked the landlady if those 2 names belonged to any renowned cricketers or footballers. Famous, she said, setting the tea tray down. Oh no, I don't think so, but they were incredibly handsome, exactly like you. Setting the tea tray down, which the landlady brought for Billy, she said that she didn't think that those boys were famous or popular, but they were unbelievably handsome, and she compared them with Billy. Once more, Billy glanced down at the book. This last entry is over 2 years old, and Christopher Mulholland's is nearly 3 years ago. Things get scarier still when he finds out that the 2 men's names were entered into the guest book 2 and 3 years ago, respectively. Roald Dahl is carefully building up tension here. Dear me, she said, heaving a dainty little sigh. How time does fly away, doesn't it? Heaving a sigh, the landlady said that time flies away very quickly. Here goes word meanings. First, earnestly, with sincerity and seriousness. Second, supper, the meal eaten just before going to bed. Third, off her rocker. It is an informal phrase for mad, crazy, or insane. Fourth, trotted, walked first, taking short steps. Fifth, rings a bell, means sounds vaguely familiar. Sixth, incredibly means unbelievably. Seventh, heaving, making a slow sound. Eighth, dainty, careful in a way suggesting good manners. Now, here we have make sentences. First, briskly meaning quickly. We walked briskly along the lane and through Park Street to the MG Road. Second, peculiar meaning strange or queer. Her behavior was a peculiar mixture of the sophisticated and the childlike. Third, tantalizing means tempting. The tantalizing plot details make me want to read the book. Fourth, admiration means a feeling of respect and liking for somebody or something. I have great admiration for her courage. Fifth, dainty means to be careful in a way suggesting good manners. Despite their dainty appearance, most of the beetles are carnivorous. That's all for the day. We'll be continuing the remaining part of the story in our next lecture. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.